Hi, and welcome to This Week in East Brunswick. Tonight we'll start off by looking at the Zimmerli Art Museum's new exhibit on abstract art, featuring works from Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, and others. Over at the Senior Citizen Center, seniors take part in a new blood circulation program called Leg Alert. Children in the East Brunswick Public Schools after-school program were featured by WOR Channel 9. Faculty and students at the high school faced off at their annual basketball game fundraiser. These stories and more are coming up, including gardening information with Peggy Ballister-Howells, advice on how to keep your back safe, a memorial minute from Councilman Rich Walling, and our regular council review. But first, here's next week's program schedule on Channel 8. Monday morning, learn how to cross-train with Lenore Kulik on Look Great, Feel Great at 10 o'clock. At 10:30, local 4-year-olds enjoy stories read by librarian Janet Rosalenko on Stories from the Library. Tuesday night, In Print, a program produced by the Beverly Hills Public Library, runs at 7, followed by Sports Talk at 7:30. At 8, learn about the workings of the East Brunswick Senior Center on Where Friendships Begin. Travel to the beautiful setting of Waterford Gardens with Dolly Basta on For Art's Sake. That's Wednesday evening at 7:30. At 8 o'clock Wednesday, The Arts features the New Jersey State Teen Arts Program. Thursday night, tune into Channel 8 for This Week in East Brunswick at 7 and 8. And at 7:30, Sandy Lamon and guest Shirley Chayton demonstrate fashion secrets on EB People. Check the Channel 8 program guide and community bulletin board for Saturday's schedule and for community announcements.
My name is Jeffrey Wexler. I'm the Assistant Director at the Jane Voorhees Zimmerli Art Museum at Rutgers University. I'm currently sitting within our major exhibition we have on view right now, which is entitled Abstract Expressionism, Other Dimensions, which will continue through June 17th of this year. Abstract Expressionism is generally regarded by most art historians as possibly the most important 20th century American contribution to modern art history. Some of the major artists in the exhibition and in the movement are Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, Robert Motherwell, Willem de Kooning, and many others. However, this show takes a different approach to abstract expressionism as is usually seen in textbooks or discussions of the topic. Abstract expressionism is usually seen as an art movement which used very, very large-size paintings to make its major statements. And certainly there were many large works of abstract expressionism. One goes to the Museum of Modern Art or the Metropolitan Museum of Art, for example, and one will find works 14 to 20 feet long by artists like Jackson Pollock and the like. However, there were many small paintings made during that period, and what this exhibition tries to show is that these small paintings were very important for the artists of that period and show all the major movements and all the major stylistic trends almost just as well as the large ones. Also, very importantly, there were a lot of artists at that period, the 1940s and 1950s, who decided to work very, very small, and these people have now been rather forgotten in the context of art history. This show exhibits the major artists and the minor artists together, bring them together almost for the first time under the idea of small-scale abstract expressionism. This painting by Jackson Pollock, who is probably the best known of all the abstract expressionists, is a good example of the surprising scale that you'll find in this exhibition. Again, Pollock is usually known for these very large horizontal paintings which sometimes go up to 20 feet in length. However, here we have one which is only about 2 or 3 feet in length and only about, let's say about 1 foot in height. What's interesting to know about Pollock is that even though he is so generally regarded as a painter almost exclusively of large scale, if you actually count all the paintings he made and measure them all, you will find that over half of his output, all of his mature work, paintings and the rest, was really very small scale, usually less than 36 inches by 36 inches in dimensions. Many American critics talked about abstract expressionism in terms of a very aggressive, emotional type of a movement, something reflective of American extroversion, of American interest in an action and a very strong type of a painting. This part of abstract expressionism gave rise to the term action painting, which obviously deals with painting which are made with a good deal of gesture, activity, and action. Jackson Pollock, for example, flung and dripped and threw his painting onto his canvases. A work like this by Franz Klein shows very rapid gestural brush strokes sort of zipping across the surface. And this type of strength and activity was found to be very, very important for many critics towards the power of abstract expressionism. You might see paintings like this one by Mark Rothko as being the opposite side of abstract expressionism to works by Franz Kline and Jackson Pollock. Instead of very active gestural surfaces, there are a number of painters such as Rothko, Barnett Newman, Ad Reinhardt, and others who used very simplified color surfaces, surfaces that were ultimately called field paintings because they are simplified fields of color. These paintings usually reached immense sizes, again, 20 feet long by Barnett Newman, 11 feet high or 10 feet high by Mark Rothko. But in this exhibition, as I said, we've emphasized the smaller paintings in that group. One interesting thing about field paintings is that they are really quite different from traditional art in that they really have no sense of individual focus. There's not something like a tree or a table or a still life which one focuses on as the central element. You look all over the picture in terms of the visual effects of the work. In fact, these are sometimes called all-over canvases. In this work by Lee Krasner, we have a work which actually combines aspects of action painting, which is a gestural active surface, and aspects of field painting, in which again there is no focus to the composition. You'll see in many of her works that she uses this type of a technique with layers of paint or skeins of paint or threads of paint which actively move back and forth across the surface, giving a very, very interesting active effect, although there is really no compositional focus to the overall work. In this work, you can see how she creates a very, very complex surface using lines and dots, layer upon layer of work to make a very, very complex surface. With the emphasis of many writers about abstract expressionism in the 40s and 50s on the aggressive or outward emotional types of readings of abstract painting at that time, very often the big picture is what the writers and the critics wanted during those years. However, many of the artists preferred simply not to do those large paintings. They felt that very small paintings had something to say on their own, and because of that, unfortunately, they have been rather forgotten in today's art history of mid-century abstraction. Artists such as Charles Seliger, as we see here, Sal Sarugo, Harold Chapinski, Mark Tobey, and many other artists who really preferred the small format felt that something was lost when one created a very huge painting. They felt that in a sense you were diluting your energies as opposed to concentrating them down to a point, concentrating very hard on the surface that you were painting to make a very complex and very rich type of a surface. Many of the artists made comments about this. In fact, Charles Seliger, as we have here for a number of the artists in the show, has some quotations of words that he said about his art. I quote Charles Seliger here. He said, "I prefer the small format. I can articulate this space with energy and a complexity that will make the finished work a lyrical and intense experience. It is a space to be worked over with detail and subtle nuances that draw you in and bring you toward a more intimate relationship with the painting." Now, this concept of intimacy is very important because, again, the artists who preferred small scale felt that a large painting certainly could overwhelm you emotionally by being so massive that one almost steps back to see it. However, they felt that a small painting, which was interesting, complex, and had something to say, would, as Seliger said, draw you in. It had its power over the viewer by bringing the person towards it, so to be a one-to-one eye contact with the painting, and the person could more appreciate the small, subtle world that was created within a small space. For some people, the very idea of an abstract expressionist painting show consisting almost entirely of very small pictures will come as a surprise. We really pick up on that idea of surprise in the cover of our catalog to symbolize that notion. Here you see an abstract expressionist painting with all the typical active gestural brushwork one comes to know from that style. However, when one opens the catalog, one is simply surprised to see that the work is actually so small it can fit within the palms of one's hands. So this exhibition, we think, is a very interesting one and quite surprising for people interested in abstract painting of the 20th century and in a very important American art style. This exhibition continues at the Jane Voorhees Zimmerli Art Museum through June 17th. The hours for this exhibition are weekdays from 10 to 4:30, weekends from 12 to 5. We are closed on Wednesdays. We're located on the corner of George and Hamilton Street in New Brunswick on the Rutgers campus.
I'm Jim Allender, an advanced sales representative for Herx Roussel Pharmaceuticals, and today we're holding a Leg Alert program here at the East Brunswick Senior Center. Now, the Leg Alert was developed in response to elderly patients who have leg difficulties when they walk, leg pain, and consider it a natural part of aging, but in actuality, it's really a condition of peripheral arterial disease, and it is manifested by leg pain when they walk. They will walk a certain distance and all of a sudden their legs will cramp up. And they actually think this is a natural part of aging. Well, what we've developed here is a program where a doctor and a nurse will work together to provide blood pressures, if you will, one on the brachial and one on the ankle, and by measuring these differences they'll be able to determine whether there is a insufficiency in arterial blood flow to the extremities. Now, the reason why leg pain occurs in a patient, an elderly patient with the condition which is called intermittent claudication, is very simply when you walk you have a greater demand for oxygen or to the circulation to the lower extremities, the feet particularly, and oxygen carrying blood is the way the circulation is improved. So if you can somehow improve the circulation, you're going to get rid of that intermittent claudication or at least minimize the symptoms. So what this screening will do is enable the patient to find out, that if they have the problem, and then if they do, the patient will be referred to the physician of their choice who can do some further testing, and along with diet and exercise, especially if the patient is a diabetic, they will be able to, along with medication, perhaps take care of this condition. And this is a nice time to find out if a patient has peripheral arterial disease, because if further down the line, if they do not take care of this condition right now, it could worsen into something a lot more serious than what intermittent claudication is right now. So this leg screening program is being conducted by Alice Iacano, the township nurse, and today all the seniors are being tested, and this is something that Alice would like to do in the future on a regular basis.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Picone, and my partner Dr. John Reichert of the Middlesex County Chiropractic Center, serving the East Brunswick community for over 18 years. For this week's Health Facts, we're going to go over spinal posture and how it relates to your general health. I'm going to have Dr. Reichert demonstrate very poor posture from the side view. As you can see in poor posture, his shoulders are very rounded, his buttock is sticking out, stomach muscles are very relaxed and unsupportive to the lumbar spine. Head is flexed very far forward in an unnatural position, creating a great strain on the musculature in the upper back. More proper position would be with the shoulders thrown back, the head erect, the buttock brought right back underneath the dorsal spine. When we look at the patient from the side, the hole in the ear, or the acoustic meatus, should be directly over the shoulder should be directly over the hip bone, the hip directly over the bone in the ankle. This is proper posture. Now I'm going to have Dr. Reichert demonstrate improper posture in sleeping. Dr. Reichert's going to sleep on his stomach. Stomach sleeping is one of the worst positions for the patient to be in, because the head must be turned one way or the other all night long, since none of us could breathe with our face straight down into the mattress. As you can see, he has one leg elevated and his pelvis is greatly torqued and twisted. His shoulders are also at an unnatural type of position, and his stomach muscles will be very relaxed. Another improper way that many patients we have found sleep is with two pillows, the head unnaturally elevated. Now, as you can see on the spine, the cervical curvature is an indented type of a C-shaped curve. If we take that C-shape and lay it down alongside Dr. Reichert, you can see that in this position, his neck is really flexed at an unnatural angle. This will create a lot of tension and strain on the blood vessels in the neck and the muscles, causing the patient many times to wake up with headaches. Now, a proper position would be for Dr. Reichert to sleep on his side, place one pillow under his shoulder and one between his knees, with his knees drawn up in a fetal position. This keeps the legs parallel throughout the night, eliminates the one leg crossing over the other, keeps the knees and pelvis nicely separated so that it's properly aligned, and his neck and head are in gentle alignment with his shoulders, not tipped too far to the side, either elevated or depressed. Another proper way for patients to sleep on the back would be to use the cervical pillow, as Dr. Reichert is using here, and take another pillow and place it under the knees. By placing a pillow under the knees, we are greatly enhancing the lumbar curvature, the C-shape of the lumbar spine, allowing the spine to gently relax, and taking the pull off the hamstring and the sciatic muscles by causing the knees to be flexed and elevated. The head also is in a very natural curved position because of the cervical pillow. The head is in a natural flex like this. Very important to have the head rest as flat to the mattress as is possible. Dr. Reichert will now demonstrate the proper way to get out of bed by rolling onto his side, placing his hands under his upper torso and pushing himself to a gently elevated position, swinging his legs off the side of the bed and getting up to an erect position. For Dr. John Reisert, I am Dr. Tom Picone for this week's Health Facts.
Hi, I'm Susan Caspin, Program Director of School-Age Child Care here at the site of the program, Central School. And today we have a very exciting event. Channel 9's Jane Kashlak is here with her camera crew, and she's doing a piece on the SACC program that will be aired on Channel 9, June 25th, on A+ for Kids series. And to add to the excitement today, Channel 8 is taping Channel 9 taking the SACC program. So this is really an exciting experience to everyone involved.
Hello, I'm Councilman Richard Walling, and I'd like to share some background of Memorial Day and its significance to the residents of East Brunswick. Many of you may know that Memorial Day, that's celebrated at the end of May each year, originally grew out of Decoration Day, an event that celebrated the remembrances of the men who served and died during the American Civil War. I'd like to read a little bit from a brochure that I prepared about East Brunswick's role during that conflict. The Township of East Brunswick was created by an act of the state legislature in 1860. Exactly 1 year later, in April of 1861, the American Civil War erupted when Confederate gunners opened up on Fort Sumter in South Carolina. At the outbreak of the war, East Brunswick was a community of farmer, artisans, and merchants. There were no housing developments or shopping centers. In 1860, for example, the population was just over 2,000 people, and that included parts of the villages of South River, Spotswood, and Milltown. For comparison, today's population is at 45,000 people. The town's biggest settlement was Old Bridge Village, located down Old Bridge Turnpike behind present-day Movie City 5. When the war began, East Brunswick's men rallied around the flag. Approximately 32 men served during the American Civil War from East Brunswick, and I'd like to take a moment and read their names as we remember them. Herbert Appleby, Old Bridge Village. Lieutenant James Appleby, Old Bridge Village. Corporal William Appleby from Old Bridge. Uriah Boyce, Stephen Disbrow, both from Old Bridge. Nicholas Fowler, who died. Joseph Fox, William Hatfield, Captain Benjamin F. Lloyd, who died during the war. Charles Lloyd, his son, who was a musician. James Lowry, Charles Purdun and Charles Pardun, two different gentlemen. John Pope, who also died during the war. William Rapelier, who deserted, unfortunately, during the conflict. William Rogers, who died shortly after the Battle of Fredericksburg. Theodore Service, Howard Snedeker, Richard Snedeker, Foreman Snowden, Thomas Snowden, James Soden and Peter Soden, and William Soden. That family gave 3 young sons to the conflict. Charles Smith, Ephraim Sperling, Jacob Stralley, John Sylvester, Charles Titus, George Wilmot, and Samuel Yates. 7 men died during the conflict from East Brunswick. Many of their graves are located here in East Brunswick at Osage Cemetery on Old Stage Road and Chestnut Hill Cemetery. It may be a good idea at this time of year to go and visit their graves and remember the great contribution they made to America's freedom.
Time in pro wrestling, Mike. That's right, but I want all you people to see the new Universal Wrestling Alliance at the Daisy Spring Fair at the Middlesex County Fairgrounds on May the 25th. I'm wrestling Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. I'm Iron Mike Sharp. There'll be world famous lady wrestlers, midgets, everybody. I'll be there. You be there. For ticket information, call 201-238-6143. Again, that's 201-238-6143.
Dr. Kling, thanks for being with us here in our fourth in this series on reading. What's the role of parents in their children's reading? And as specifically as possible, what can parents actually do?
There is a great role that's been demonstrated in the last 15 or 20 years that parents do make a difference. And the first and most important role is that they value reading, that it's an important part of their lives, and that they model it. They show in their daily activities that they are readers, that they're reading books, they're reading recipes, and they're involving and inviting their kids to engage in this kind of activity in and of itself. So the first and foremost thing is that parents can show the way by their own activities that this is a really important and part of their everyday lives.
So first, and maybe even most importantly, if parents want their children to be readers, then parents themselves must be readers.
Yeah, they shouldn't leave it to the schools. They are an important part of schooling in every sense of the word. And this especially deals with reading that's not related to school, which is now called voluntary reading, or recreational reading as it used to be called. And that is making a real difference. Just a few years ago, a national study was done on kids outside reading. And one of the most striking things that came out of this study was that just spending 15 or 20 minutes a day puts these kids in the top 10% on most of the major standardized tests.
That's astounding. That's an amazing return on such a small investment, so to say.
Yep, and it starts with the home, and as innocuous and as informal as that, but it does mount and build that way. The other thing is to make things accessible to the kid. Have subscriptions to children's magazines. Have children's books. Give presents that are at the kid's level. Take the kid to the library and have it be an enjoyable thing as a regular activity. Have the kid have their own library card and their own little reading corner where they can curl up and enjoy reading. Read to them every day when they're not reading, or as pre-readers. Again, what's been found, and again, the parents didn't know about this, the studies came after the parents did this. 15 or 20 minutes a day reading to kids who are pre-readers will develop them into precocious readers when they get to school. So there's another kind of thing that we found out just by looking in on kids who were reading at a very advanced level at the early ages of 3 or 4 years of age.
So I guess what I hear you saying is that reading needs to be integrated into an entire lifestyle and not just some added on or tacked on extraneous piece.
That's said very well. It has to be a naturally involved everyday kind of experience.
Dr. Kling, thanks for being with us in this fourth in our series on reading. In our fifth and final segment on reading, we'll be looking at dyslexia.
Hi, I'm Audrey Babbitts, Secretary of the Senior Class at East Brunswick High School, and we're here tonight at the gym of the high school for the faculty versus senior basketball game. This event is held annually to raise money for the senior prom, and it should be a lot of fun. Mr. Henning has put in a lot of work to make this night a success, and I'd like to thank him. I'd also like to thank our advisors, Ms. Cressy and Ms. Bauer, and all the time and effort that everyone's put in to make this night a success.
Township residents urged the council to ban the use of polystyrene in the community during the public portion of Monday night's council meeting. The proposed ordinance, prepared and presented to the council by several residents, is adopted from a similar ordinance passed in Newark in 1988 and one currently under consideration in Elizabeth. The group is attempting to promote the use of biodegradable packaging on a statewide level. Councilman Irv Sporn lent his support for the idea, as did Councilman Ira Oskowski, who had this to say about the issue.
What better way to get rid of plastics than to eliminate it completely as far as polystyrene? The McDonald's or Burger King's or any other food establishments that might use it have other sources or other methods to wrap their food. There's paper and there are several other methods. And if something is as non-biodegradable as polystyrene is around, I think what better way than to eliminate it instead of recycling it.
In order for this type of proposal to be effective, the residents and council members feel that support is needed at the state and county levels. The council is continuing to study the issue. The council also approved a resolution that would establish a municipal alliance committee for the prevention of alcoholism and drug abuse. The state-mandated committee will organize and coordinate the efforts of the schools, law enforcement, and other municipal groups for the purpose of reducing alcoholism and drug abuse in East Brunswick. And Memorial Day commemorative posters were presented to those establishments, organizations, and individuals who are supporting this year's Memorial Day Parade with a donation of $250 or more. The posters were presented by Ira Oskowski, who headed the fundraising efforts, Mayor Jackson Agra, and Judith Lebline, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services.
The very first poster I would like to present is something of a surprise, and that's for Mayor Jackson Agra. Jack? And Jack, that'll be $250. And if you would help us present the others.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Wisniewski, a parent of a Camp Daisy child and the chairman of the 3rd annual Daisy Spring Fair to be held at the Middlesex County Fairgrounds in East Brunswick, New Jersey. And what a fair! We have New Jersey Valley Amusements on a midway, a multi-million-dollar midway coming in this year. Chocolate Pudding Wrestling will be there on opening night at 8 o'clock. It's being held and run by Erica Oland from East Brunswick High School. She's the co-chairman on that part of the deal. Thursday is pay one price at the fair. The kids ride the rides all night. The K9 dogs will be there, YB Choi Karate. On Friday, professional wrestling comes to the Daisy Spring Fair. Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, the featured attraction. Friday night after the wrestling performance, we have a free attraction at the fair, music by 911. That's rock and roll music, and it's also fireman's mug night at the fair. Fire trucks will be coming from different parts of New Jersey displaying their equipment. Saturday in the daytime, an oldies rock and roll car show. A $4 advance sale tickets. There's over 200 cars entered in the fair, along with a bikini contest and a free oldies concert in the afternoon. Free petting zoo the whole weekend. 8 o'clock, here's the best part of the deal. Joe Miller, Remember When, and Shirley Austin Reeves and the Shirelles. After you paid your admission at the gate, the concert is totally free this year. Bring your lawn chairs and blankets. It's going to be great. The Township Parade on Sunday starts at the Daisy Fair. It'll be Ethnic Day with music in the afternoon, the St. Bartholomew's famous folk group, Tim Gillis Country Band, and fireworks at 10 p.m. Free petting zoo all day long again. And the finale, Monday, the big 50-50 with a $1,000 guarantee and a battle of the high school bands. And Jesus, it promises to be a great fair. Would you all come out and have a good time? Thank you.